Part 51. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 501. Chapter 501 The Nameless Palace, 2. He thought that Xianxia would at least ask about the function of this nine-layered lotus. How does he know that Xianxia is very aware of his current situation? What she appears here is only her soul, and her physical cultivation in this life has not yet broken through to the divine level, which is incomparable to the cultivation of the man in front of her. What's more, this nine-layered lotus was engraved by the man's powerful self in the previous life. Up. She is not so arrogant that she forgets her identity and situation just because of the man's respect for her and the words Heavenly Master. She is not who she was before, and her strength is not the same. Xianxia was very precious about her life and would never hit an egg against a stone. The nine-layered lotus gave her a very strong feeling. As for asking her what she doesn't know, men who can speak will naturally tell her. If she can't, it will be in vain for her to ask. The man glanced at Xianxia, who continued to walk up, and narrowed his eyes. Even if he didn't remember anything, she was still the same person. He glanced at the nine-layered lotus and continued to walk up after Xianxia. Xianxia finally reached the top of the steps. Sure enough, there were 99 steps. She also saw the majestic main hall, which had a sense of showing off its wealth. The man stopped when she was walking far away from her. The main hall of the Celestial Master was rarely used before. The furnishings inside have never been moved since the Celestial Master left. They are exactly the same as before. Xianxia stood at the door of the main hall and looked inside, taking in an overview with just one glance. It is indeed a place for discussion. The main seat is a chair carved into a lotus. Although it is not as domineering as the dragon chair where the emperor sits, it has a unique coolness and immortality. Xianxia is a little curious about what kind of person she used to be. I have such strength, but what about my master and senior brothers? Although the seats on both sides are not in the shape of lotus flowers, they are also different from ordinary chairs. They are all in the shape of auspicious clouds. Sitting on them feels like sitting in golden clouds. Xianxia looked at it, turned around and walked towards the side of the main hall, preparing to go around the main hall and continue walking inside. When the man saw that she did not go in, he blinked and continued to follow her. Going around the main hall, there was a large square with many buildings around it. Xianxia didn't see the door to the back, so she stopped, not knowing where to go. This is where guests and those who serve the Heavenly Master live, but no guests have lived here since it was built, the man explained to her while making a sign to go right. Xianxia glanced at the right side, which was the veranda in front of the house. The end should be the door at the back, and walked to the right. You live here too? The man said, I live in the back and have a separate palace. Xianxia understood that the people who served her were also divided into 3 grades, and the status of men should be higher. Are you alone here now? Xianxia asked again. The man nodded, yes. Thousands of years have passed. He couldn't even remember it. He was so lonely that he forgot how prosperous this place once was. At first he was still counting the days, but when did he change from counting the days to staring at the palace gate eagerly every day? Xianxia walked slowly on the veranda, thinking about what the man said. No guests have lived here since it was built. How many years has it been since it was built? Have no guests been here? Or are guests never allowed to stay overnight? There was indeed a door to the back at the end of the corridor, and the 2 doors opened automatically when Xianxia walked there. Xianxia's eyes paused, and she crossed the threshold. There was still a large square place inside. The buildings around the place were much shorter than the main hall in front, and it was obvious that it was a living area. This is where the disciples of the Heavenly Master live. The man's words were simple, and Xianxia understood. The man could only tell her what the various parts of the palace were used for. Xianxia looked at the buildings in a circle. If there was one disciple per room, there would be quite a few disciples. No wonder Qiao wanted to worship him as his teacher in his previous life. Such a posture can indeed intimidate people. Yu Xianluo didn't ask her how many disciples she had and were they all still alive. Where do I live? Yan Xianluo suddenly lost interest in continuing to visit here. She felt that there was no smell of fireworks here. She didn't know if she liked it before, but now she is very sure that she doesn't like it. The man pointed to the back and said, "It's right behind." Yan Xianluo looked behind and sighed secretly. She might as well go and have a look. Looking at the terrain, there should be the last building group behind. After walking out of a door, there is an alley with high walls on both sides. Yan Xianluo looked around and saw that there should be buildings at the end of both sides. But there is a door diagonally opposite, which looks much more exquisite than the door in the front courtyard. This is where the Heavenly Master lives? There are some residences on both sides of the alley. I live in the yard at the end on the left. The man walked to the door and said to Xianluo. Yan Xianluo walked to the door and the door opened automatically. Standing in front of the door, she also saw the appearance of the yard. She was surprised. She thought that the place where she lived would be more luxurious. As a result, it was just a simple house and a huge field. It looks like it feels empty. Yan Xianluo crossed the threshold and walked inside step by step. She found that the man had not followed her. She turned around and saw that the man was standing outside the door. When the man saw her looking over, he immediately explained, "This is where the Heavenly Master lives? No one is allowed to enter, not even the Heavenly Master's disciples, nor me." Yan Xianluo raised her eyebrows. Is there such a rule? It's just that she didn't expect the man to be so observant. He was alone here. He didn't know how long he had been dead in his previous life. She learned from the 3 senior brothers that it was at least several thousand years. He still abided by the rules he had set. Rules? Yan Xianluo didn't say anything. There must be a reason for her past self to set such rules. Now she doesn't intend to break them and continues to move forward alone. The entire ground is paved with gold. No, it should be said that the entire palace is refined, but the material for refining the weapons is gold. She had always felt that something was wrong here, but now she realized that there were no green plants at all. Also, the entire palace is made of refined materials. There is no land at all. Trees and flowers cannot be planted at all, except for potted plants. However, no one has lived here for a long time. The man is here alone, so naturally there are no potted plants. There was no green, and it felt like there was no life here. She didn't like this feeling very much. Could it be that she used to like it? Listening to the information revealed by senior brother, second senior brother, and fifth senior brother, you are not that kind of person? The square is very big. She doesn't understand why such a big square should be kept since it is a place to live and not allow others to come in. Then why not build a smaller courtyard? End of this chapter. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 502. Chapter 502 Memory Fragments. After thinking about it, Yan Xianluo came to the only house. The man said that this was the place where she lived in her previous life. She didn't feel that kind of timidity in her heart. So she was a little doubtful of the man's words, wondering whether he was lying or whether she had not recovered her past life memory, so she didn't feel that way. However, after entering from the palace gate, she always felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. Could it be that she had not recovered the memory of her previous life? Yan Xianluo looked at the door in front of her, wondering if she could see herself in another life when she opened the door. She reached out and pushed it. The golden door looked heavy, but she opened it with a slight push. Pushing the door was a subconscious action, but she did not forget that she was only a spirit body now. She looked at her hand and then at the open door. She could actually touch the door and push it open. What was going on? Before she could think too much, the door was pushed open and everything inside came into view. The layout of the house is very simple. As soon as you enter, you will see a main room with a room on both sides. There are no tables and chairs for receiving guests in the main room. There is only an arhat couch with a low table on it. There is a tea set made of white jade, and the couch is covered with bright red cushions and soft cushions that look very comfortable. There is a long table behind the arhat couch with some decorations placed on it. The furnishings in the room are extremely simple. Xianxia looked at the soft cushions and was very confused. How long had it been? Not to mention that the place was spotless, these fabric items had not been corroded and weathered by the years, and they were still as good as new. What material is this made of? Xianxia hesitated for a moment, then walked in. After entering, many scenes suddenly entered her mind. She closed her eyes, and the scenes in her mind were all things that had happened in this room. There was nothing worth recording. They were all ordinary life scenes. Well, a while passed before Xianxia finished receiving the information. Is this information part of her past life memory? It's a pity that there is nothing about her identity, only the scenes of her life in this room. With these memories and looking at the furnishings in the house, I finally felt a little stirred in my heart. Could it be that you let your soul come here just to remember these fragments of life memories? Xianxia walked to the arhat's couch and reached out to touch the cushions on the couch. It was extremely smooth. From the information she got, she knew that it was made of Tianbing silk. It had been woven for tens of thousands of years, not to mention thousands of years. Nothing will change. Tianbing silk is mostly used to refine weapons with strong flexibility. It is used to weave cloth into mats and cushions like this. It definitely cannot be described as luxury. If the world knew that not only were the cushions made of fabric woven from Tianbing silk, but the fillings inside were also filled with Tianbing silk, they would definitely think that she was the most extravagant person in the world. Even the weapon refiner would be jealous of her for being so precious. Such precious things are commonly used here. It can be seen that although her arrangement here is very simple, everything is valuable. But Xianxia was a little confused. Could it be that she was a spendthrift in her last life? Why does she think it's impossible? Xianxia glanced at the several objects placed on the long table behind the arhat's couch, and her eyes paused. Although these objects are placed here and look like decorations, they are actually magical tools used by the celestial master. Xianxia only recovered a small part of her memory. Although she knew what these things were used for, she had no memory of why she didn't put them away and left them here like this. As for how to use it, there is no information at all. Xianxia is not a heavenly master now, so she has not touched these things. After all, heavenly master is a very sacred profession, and it is also a very evil profession. What's more, she always felt that something was wrong here. Looking at the doors on both sides, she walked to the right and opened the door. This was her bedroom. Although there was no scene of her sleeping in the bedroom in her recovered memory, she still dressed in this room. The bedroom is no different from an ordinary woman's bedroom. There is an exquisite and gorgeous bed curtains, and quilts, all made of Tianbing silk. What surprised her the most was that the bed curtains and bedding were actually bright red. Then she thought that the cushions on the arhat's couch were also bright red. Could it be that she also liked bright red in her previous life? There is a large dressing table next to the bed, and there is a wooden comb on it. It must have been placed here after combing the hair without having time to put it away. Xianxia walked over and wanted to open the jewelry box on the side, but her outstretched hand went through the jewelry box and couldn't touch anything. Xianxia was stunned. Why could she touch it when she pushed the door and touched the cushion, but she couldn't touch the jewelry box? She tried touching the dressing table again, but couldn't touch it. She walked to the bed, stretched out her hand to touch the bed curtain, and touched it. She also touched the quilt, but she couldn't touch the bed. Yan Xianglou was extremely confused. The door, bed, and dresser were all made of the same material. Why could the door be touched but the bed and dresser could not be touched? And she can also touch the items made of Tianbing silk fabrics. Why is this? What makes her feel even more strange is that this is her bedroom, but how come she doesn't smile at all when she is sitting here dressing up in her memory? She looked at the mirror on the dressing table and found that she was not reflected in it, it was empty. Then she remembered that she was a spirit body and the mirror could not reflect her. In an instant, she felt a very blocked and weird feeling in her heart, which made her want to leave here. Now that such an idea came to her mind, she immediately turned around and left the bedroom. When she was about to go out, she saw the closed door on the left. In the memory she received, the room opposite was her training room. There was nothing in it except a huge jade lotus platform, on which she usually sat and practiced. It can also be said that the training room on the left is the room she uses the most, and she almost practices there whenever she has time. Logically speaking, it was my favorite place in my previous life. Now I would want to go in. However, just a few steps away, Yan Xianglou didn't want to walk over at all. She had no idea of opening the door and going in to take a look. She was even repulsed by it. She didn't know why she felt like this, but she understood that if she persisted in going in with this feeling, there would be no unwanted results. Yan Xianglou has always been accustomed to acting according to her heart. If she doesn't want to go in and see, then she won't go in. Even if this is really her former residence, it is all in the past, and she is just Yan Xianglou now. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 503. If you are still living in the past after reincarnation, what is the meaning of rebirth? Repeat the sorrow and failure of the previous life? Yan Xianglou has always been a very sensible person. Although she is young and has little experience, it does not mean that she is stupid. The soul is divided into two lives, and neither life is easy. In another life, she had grown up watching the intrigues in her family since she was a child. These things could not deceive her. In this life, she grew up in Tianshan Imperial City. Although she did not live in the Yu family, she was involved in the royal family and the big family, and her parents were both geniuses. How could she be a little white flower? After thinking about it, Yan Xianglou left the house without hesitation. As soon as she walked out of the door, she saw the man still standing outside the courtyard door, and he looked at her. Yan Xianglou calmly retracted her gaze and looked up at the sky. The sky here is so blue that there is not even a single white cloud. The sky is so clean that it's like time has stopped. It's like time has stood still. Yan Xianglou's apricot eyes suddenly shrank, and she withdrew her gaze to look at the spacious open space. Yes, except for the man following her, there was nothing normal here. Excluding the men, everything here seems to be still. This golden palace seemed to her like a gorgeous prison. Thinking again that her body was still unconscious on the 9-layered lotus in the cave, a light flashed in Yan Xianglou's mind, and she suddenly woke up. This is not real, everything is fake. Just when she was thinking about it, everything in front of her eyes began to blur, and she quickly looked at the man at the door. The figure of the man actually still exists so really. After everything became illusory, the aura on his body changed, and the expression on his face lost the respect it had before. Yan Xianglou looked at the man warily. The palace became more and more blurry. Just when the palace completely disappeared, Yan Xianglou floated in the sky again, and the man slowly walked towards her. Yan Xianglou frowned. She was somewhat repelled by his approach. The man seemed to be aware of her thoughts and stopped 5 or 6 steps away from her. "You didn't go into the practice room," the man said. Although it was a question, he used an affirmative tone. The most important thing is that he did not mention the Heavenly Master when he spoke this time, and the respect in his tone was gone. Xianxia could also hear a bit of anger and unwillingness. It was as if his carefully designed trap turned out to be in vain. Xianxia narrowed her eyes and said, "I just don't want to go in." I thought to myself, there is indeed something wrong with that practice room. The man laughed loudly, and then the laughter got louder and louder. After a while, he stopped, looked at Xianxia and said, "Although you have not recovered the memory of your previous life, you are still as confident as you were in the previous life." Xianxia was speechless. She didn't know what she was like in her previous life before she recovered her memory, but she knew what she was like in this life. This man is definitely not any of her senior brothers, and she doesn't know who he was in her previous life, but judging from his expression, he shouldn't be someone she gets along well with. In Xianxia's heart, people who don't get along with each other are enemies, so she won't be polite to such people. If you bully her because she is a divine soul, you can't do anything to her? Has he forgotten how to call himself Heavenly Master? Although she has not learned the power of soul control inherited from the Long family, she is still a person who can control souls. And the power of controlling the soul does not require a real body, her soul can override it. Xianxia raised her hand, and a stream of soul power rushed towards the man. The man originally wanted to say something, but when he sensed a domineering force coming towards him, he was suddenly frightened and dodged to avoid Xianxia's attack. Your soul control talent is actually stronger in this life. After hearing his words, Xianxia felt a little confident. Although he had not yet become a heavenly master in this life, his ability to control souls surprised him so much. Presumably, if he became a heavenly master in this life, he would be stronger than the previous one. This is strong. I'm just trying to see if I can use my soul to control my soul. Xianxia didn't want to really fight with him. If her soul was injured, it would be a big deal. The man looked at her with complicated eyes. Originally, if you went into the training room, I could consider giving you a way to survive, but you didn't go in. Not only did you not go in, but I also discovered that your soul control talent is stronger. You said, is there any reason to let you go? Xiang's heart sank. It turned out that he wanted his own life. It seemed that this battle was unavoidable. Only the power of soul control could be used to fight with others. What was the possibility of winning? She began to make calculations in her mind, but she didn't notice at all that she was no longer like before. When encountering a life-threatening situation, she thought about how to escape in advance, but faced the difficulties head-on. Then you have to have that ability. Xianxia said she would never admit defeat. The man sneered, "Luo, you are still so cute." Xianxia was speechless. She was so cute, but she was obviously arrogant. What about her eyes? She had never been associated with cuteness. Now she suspected that neither the man in front of her nor the cute words in her senior brother's words seemed to mean the same thing as what she understood. However, the man called out her name, letting her understand that she was also called Luo in her previous life, but she didn't know if the full name was the same. If you think this is cute, then let it make you feel more cute. Xianxia didn't want to passively accept attacks. She only had soul power, so she could only take the initiative to occupy a favorable situation. Xianxia didn't use her strongest soul-controlling power just now, but this time she showed no mercy and used her strongest attack. The power of soul control originally attacks the soul, so even if it can hurt the opponent, it is not the opponent's body that is hurt. Xianxia is now not sure whether the opponent is a spirit or a real body, so after this attack, she will know. If it is a spirit, she really has no chance of winning. If it is a real body, then she still has hope to give it a try. The man saw that she attacked directly without hesitation, knowing that she was really not afraid of him, and he clearly sensed that her soul power was much stronger than the attack just now. He has no soul power, and his soul power cannot compete with it at all. Therefore, he can only dodge her attack, then use his spiritual power to scatter her soul, and then completely destroy her soul, so that she will be completely destroyed. Disappeared. The body left in the cave is just an empty shell, and what they worry about will never happen again. Hence, he was not prepared to show mercy. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared, dodged Yan Xiongluo's attack, and appeared behind Yan Xiongluo. At the same time, he spread his hands above his head, and powerful spiritual power rushed toward Yan Xiongluo's soul. The fragrance falls ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 504. The man was very confident that his blow could definitely kill Yang Xiongluo directly. The attack accurately landed on Yan Xiongluo's soul. The huge explosive force made Yan Xiongluo feel the airflow swaying as he moved. The man watched coldly as Yan Xiongluo's spirit disappeared in the explosion, with a triumphant smile on his face. Let's just say, she is not the one in her previous life. Her cultivation level is too low. How can she be his opponent? Do you think she is the superior heavenly master in her previous life? However, after the explosion, he found that Yan Xiongluo's soul was still there, but his own soul seemed to be attached to it by something, and his whole body became heavy. He looked at Yan Xiongluo in disbelief. How is that possible? He clearly dodged Yan Xiongluo's soul attack, and his attack also landed on Yan Xiongluo's soul. How come nothing happened to her, but something happened to his own soul? How could she, a soul with an emperor-level cultivation level, be his opponent? After all, her soul body can be pulled out of her body just by relying on the trap set up. Yan Xiongluo looked at him indifferently. It seems that I made the right bet. The man asked in confusion, what did you bet on? Yan Xiongluo said in a calm tone, I bet your body is real. The man is not afraid. His body is indeed real, but it is just a Tao clone. For people of their level, a clone is just an extremely weak part of the soul. Even if it dissipates, it has no effect on his own soul. What an impact! Are you so confident that you can beat me? Yan Xiongluo stretched out a finger and waved it. It's not that I won, it's that I won perfectly. The man was even more puzzled. Although his soul was indeed uncomfortable now, it had not dissipated to the point where he could not fight, and his spiritual power could still be used. How could she be so sure that she had won, and that she had won perfectly? It's too early to talk about winning or losing now. The man gritted his teeth and thought to himself that even if she was reborn, she would still be smart and calm, making people jealous. Yan Xiongluo's spirit looked at him with a smile. Why are you so arrogant as a clone? The man was stunned. How do you know I am a clone? Because Kongming guessed that his body was real, he was not surprised. After all, there were too many smart people in the world, and she was not generally smart in her previous life. But it stands to reason that with her cultivation level, she would not be able to notice that she is a clone. Why is she so sure that she is a clone? Could it be that her soul is not limited by the level of physical cultivation and is so powerful? Yan Xiongluo's smile became brighter and brighter. She had indeed made the right bet. Before taking action, she knew very well that her only chance of survival was the power of soul control. If the body of the man in front of her was real, it must be a clone. Because of the rules of heaven, those who are strong enough to pull their souls out of their bodies, the strength is definitely not something that people from higher continents can achieve. But although the opponent's strength was very strong, it was not that strong yet. Therefore, she concluded that this person was just a clone. If it was a clone, then she had made the right bet on this slim chance of survival. Even though her current cultivation level is not as powerful as a clone, she is now a divine soul body, and her power to control the soul is not limited by the body. She is indeed the nemesis of the soul body. If the other party is just a clone, then it is just a little bit of the soul of the original body. No matter how strong his cultivation is, his soul body is not strong enough. In her hands, she can't control such a small amount of soul however she wants. Of course, all this was just her guess, and it involved a lot of gambling, but she was lucky and the bet was right. Xianxia was not in the habit of explaining to his enemies, so he did not answer the man. Raising his fair and slender hand, the man suddenly felt that the soul in his body was leaving, and he could not stop it. He was extremely frightened. Is her soul controlling power so strong now? At the same time, he also understood that he had indeed lost. The clone itself relies on a bit of soul support from the main body. When the soul leaves the body, the clone disappears on its own. At this time, the man calmed down and sneered, "Lucky for you, it's just a clone and has no impact on my body. Although my plan failed today, it made me know that I can never let you grow up. Who do you think will lose and who will win?" Xianxia has already thought of this. Before she knew how powerful her soul control power was, the other party already wanted to kill her, and now that she knew it, she would not let him go. I don't even know who the other person is, so I am indeed very passive, but I will never let her suffer a dumb loss like this. Although you are a clone, your cultivation level is much higher than mine. In this case, you are my defeat, so why should you be afraid of your true body? Xianxia's words were very arrogant. Her methods are not just spiritual cultivation. The man wanted to say something else, but his soul left his body at this moment. Without his soul, his body stood there like a puppet, and then turned into dots of starlight and disappeared. The last thing Xianxia saw was the unwillingness in the man's eyes. Xingmu glanced at the trace of the soul held in her hand. The soul was struggling in her hand, but no matter how hard he struggled, he could not break away from Xianxia's hand. Xianxia smiled meaningfully, "Don't be afraid, I won't kill you. I still need you to go back and send a message, telling your body that the next time we see you is the day of your death." The soul body in her hand stopped struggling after hearing this. Since he is not obliterated, he will not be hurt at all when he returns to his body. All the information can be brought back. When we meet next time, whose death will be his, it will be him. That's all. After all, she cannot grow up in a short period of time. Xianxia looked at the soul body in her hand and let go of her hand. A beam of soul power hit the soul body. "Go back." The soul body disappears as soon as it is liberated. Xianxia's soul was instantly sucked back by her own body, and the comatose Xianxia on the 9-layered lotus in the cave woke up. She opened her eyes and lay on the 9-layered lotus without moving. A cold light burst out from her almond eyes, and the corners of her lips raised a mocking arc. How could she let go of the soul for no reason, and then she would know what she had done when the soul returned to its true body? She can suffer a little and suffer a little, but she must not be angry or bullied. How is it possible to want to escape intact even if you want to kill her? At this time, on a palace in the clouds in the distant sky, the man's body stood at the highest point with his hands behind his hands, looking at the clouds in the distance. He felt that the clone disappeared. Failed. She has set so many tempting traps, but she didn't fall into any of them. How could she not be curious about those things at all? Suddenly, his body moved, and he knew that the soul of the clone was back. The fragrance falls ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 505. This also meant that his plan did fail this time, and he wanted to know what went wrong and why it failed. After his soul returned to his body, he accepted the memory of his clone. When her eyes changed, she realized that her soul was so powerful, and her power to control the soul was even stronger than in the previous life. Sure enough, she was right to set up this situation in advance. The man rubbed his temples and felt a little irritated. It seemed that he had to go and deal with her in person. At this moment, he suddenly realized that something was wrong with his soul. Why did he feel numb? The consciousness immediately sensed his own soul, only to discover that the culprit was actually the soul that had just returned. He gritted his teeth and said, "I'm looking down on you. With such a low cultivation level and still in the state of the soul body, you can actually manipulate my soul without letting me notice. It seems that you will be more difficult to deal with in this life." The man immediately mobilized his spiritual power, trying to expel the numbness in his soul from his body. Originally, he thought it would be a piece of cake, but no matter how much spiritual power he used, he could not get rid of the feeling of paralysis. On the contrary, the feeling of paralysis in his soul became more and more frequent. If it continued, it would be difficult for him to move. How did she do it? It is impossible for a soul body to carry poison with it. And if it was really poison, he should be able to feel it the moment the clone returned to his original body. The physical paralysis was felt only after he received the clone's memory, which meant that the hands and feet that Xianxia made on his clone could avoid the detection of his powerful spiritual consciousness. What is it if it's not poison? What else could make his soul slowly lose consciousness? His brain was spinning rapidly and he couldn't think of a reason, but the current situation did not allow him to think any more. If he delayed any longer, his whole soul would be paralyzed, and he would be the meat on the cutting board for others to chop at will. Thinking of this, he immediately mobilized the spiritual power he could still use to seal his other souls that had not been paralyzed, preventing the paralysis from continuing to spread. Even though he reacted quickly, 1/3 of his soul was paralyzed. The remaining soul was sealed. Under such circumstances, he could do nothing but wait until the paralysis of the soul disappeared completely. In other words, it is impossible for the main body to find Xianxia and get rid of her now. Fortunately, he could still move his body, but at this time, he was no different from an ordinary person, and his spiritual power could not be mobilized at all. He walked back to his room, lay on the bed, and waited. Apart from this, there was no other way. He clenched his hands tightly into fists. In the last life, she was so strong that he could beat her. But in this life, when he found her reincarnation when she was still weak, he didn't believe it. She didn't even believe it. She is already so much weaker than him, but he still can't get rid of her. But he was still very afraid of Xianxia's soul-controlling power. He had never seen anyone like him plot against him like this. She was much more cruel in this life than in the previous one. It seems that he was careless. This time he should take action. There is no regret in the world. Taking advantage of the fact that he can only use his brain now, he thought about it. If he takes action again, he will definitely not give her a chance to survive. At this time, Xianxia stood up from the 9-layer lotus platform. Looking at the 9-layer lotus platform under her feet, a dark light flashed across her almond-shaped eyes. Obviously I have returned from the illusory world, but why are the 9-layered lotus still there, these lights still there, and the apertures and patterns on the ground also there? No, that clone is real, which means that the place he was in just now is not an illusory world, and the palace is not completely illusory. Some things are real. It is precisely because of these real things that the illusion can be achieved. The palace of nothingness comes. It also shows that her soul was simply moved there by some means. Does the stuff here actually exist? For example, the 9-layered lotus, or the ball of light on the stone wall. Xianxia felt that she was free now and was no longer controlled by that void force. She jumped down from the 9-layered lotus, landed on the ground, and walked towards the edge of the cave by stepping on the layers of rings. There was no resistance this time. Xianxia walked to the edge of the cave, turned around and looked at the 9-story lotus platform, and then looked up at the glowing of light surrounding the top of the cave. When this place was first formed, the light ball first emitted light to form a pillar of light, and then there were the 9-layered lotus and the halo and pattern on the ground. Should taking away those light destroy all the illusory scenes? The rest should be real objects. Yan Xiongluo had a feeling that the nine-layered lotus was definitely closely related to her. That golden palace should also be real, but it just had something to do with her in her previous life. She didn't have that part of memory yet, so she didn't have any memory of it. I know, but it doesn't feel like a good place. She wished that the nine-layered lotus was a real thing, that would be the best. Thinking of this, she looked at the stone wall of the cave and rose into the air, flying towards the light ball above her head. When she reached it, she reached out to get the light ball, and suddenly retracted her outstretched hand. The light ball could not be sensed. Why is the heat so hot? Yan Xiongluo looked at the fingers she touched and saw they were burnt. Looking at the incense falling to the ground, he took out a few herbs to refine the burn ointment and applied it on the burned fingers. Soon, the fingers were back to normal. Yan Xiongluo frowned and looked at the dozens of light in a circle. She still had to think of a way to get them. She tried to wrap the light ball with her mental power to see if she could throw it directly into space, but she found that the closer the mental power was to the light ball, the more her head hurt. Seeing that it was still several meters away, she pressed give up too much and hurt her nerves. Consciousness is not a good thing, and this method will not work. If the mental power really touches the light ball, the consciousness will definitely be seriously injured. Try to use spiritual power again to attack the light ball and drop it. Anyway, what you want is to change the position of the light ball. A spiritual power attack was directed at the light ball closest to her. Although she did not use a lot of spiritual power, all the spiritual power she used was counterattacked by the light ball, and the intensity was doubled. If she had not reacted quickly, she would have been hit by her own double power for attacks. I patted my heart with lingering fear, but I couldn't take it directly, my mental power wasn't working, and my spiritual attacks couldn't do it either. What should I do? Originally, she wanted to see if Xuanhuan could do anything, but her connection with the space and her spiritual pets was cut off, and it has not been restored yet. She can only rely on herself. The connection with the space was cut off, and she could not take out the things in the space. Fortunately, her previous things were all placed in the storage ring and were not moved to the space by her. Her consciousness began to store things. Are you rummaging through the ring to see if there's anything you can use? I searched for a while, but couldn't find anything useful. Suddenly, her eyes lit up. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 506. All the phenomena formed here must not be for no reason. The light ball also has the ability to fight back. It seems that only the formation can do this. Is it the formation? Yan Xiongluo looked at the light and nine-layered lotus on the stone wall, as well as the apertures and patterns on the ground. She ignored their light and only cared about their positions. She sketched their positions in her mind. After pondering for a while, a bright smile suddenly appeared on her beautiful face. It's really a formation. Yan Xiongluo slowly walked around the nine-layered lotus. She had never seen this formation before. The reason why she was sure it was a formation was because she placed the light sphere and the nine-layered lotus's aperture pattern. The conclusion. Although I have never seen it, as long as I am sure it is a formation, it is easy to say. The formation itself is ever-changing, but it is always changeable. Breaking the formation is just a matter of time. Breaking the formation is actually very simple. As long as you find the formation I and destroy the formation I, the formation will naturally be broken. It is simple to say, but in high-level formations, it is not easy to find the formation I's. Whether the formation I's can be broken is still unknown. After all, the formation master who sets up the formation also knows how to destroy his own formation. Not to mention that the formation eye is well hidden. The position where the formation eye is located is the most powerful place of the formation. If it cannot be broken, the backlash of the formation eye will be it is very likely to kill the person who broke the formation. Yu Xianglou is not a reckless person, nor is she an arrogant person. She is confident in her formation skills. She calmed down and started to break the formation. She didn't know if it was her imagination. After she calmed down, she found that this formation seemed familiar. Yan Xianglou understood that this should be due to the memory of her previous life. After all, this was the first time she had seen this formation in her life. Her eyes lit up when she thought of the fragments of life she remembered in the Golden Palace. Could it be that if she wanted to restore the memory of her previous life, she needed something from her previous life as a primer? But when I think about the colored glaze lamp, it was also my own thing in my previous life. Why didn't I regain any memory when I got the colored glaze lamp? Yan Xianglou shook his head, shaking off these confusions, and concentrated on studying the formation. Restoring his memory is not the most important thing now. The most important thing now is to break the formation and leave the cave. Another day passed, and Mu Changling, Deng Changs, and Qi Hao stood outside the cave like this for another day. The afterglow of the sun set on the top of the mountain. Mu Changling glanced at Deng Changs and said, "Xiao Hao has been eating dry food for the past 2 days, and today he has eaten nothing. You take him back to have some hot rice first, before his master comes out. It hurts to see how hungry I am." Deng Chang's mouth twitched, and the worries in his heart were somewhat diluted by his ancestor's words. Qi Hao immediately said, "Ancestor, I'm not hungry." Mu Changling smiled and rubbed his head, "Your master will be fine. You have to take good care of yourself first, so that you have the strength to take care of the people you care about." Qi Hao blinked and understood what his ancestor meant. He immediately saluted and said, "Ancestor, I can go back alone. I can just go find Brother Mingli to eat." Mu Changling smiled. No wonder Luo Yetu accepted an apprentice at the age of 16. This young apprentice was indeed not very clever. Watching Qi Hao go back down the mountain to the courtyard where Mu Changling lived, Deng Changs asked, "What did our ancestors discover?" "Qi Hao has been waiting here with them for 3 days, always eating the dry food he brought with him." Although his ancestor loved Qi Hao, he would not dote on Qi Hao to the point where he would feel distressed after eating dry food for only a few days. He must have something to say to him. Only then did he push Qi Hao away. Mu Changling said, "There are changes inside. I can feel the breath of the formation." Deng Changs was stunned. It seemed that his cultivation level was still too low. He kept using his spiritual sense to check, but he didn't sense anything. The ancestors actually sensed it? Since there is a formation, Xiao Luo should be breaking it. Deng Changs frowned and used his spiritual sense to explore inside, but he still didn't sense anything. Mu Changling nodded, "With my level of cultivation, I can only sense the breath of the formation. I'm afraid this formation is not a formation from the higher mainland." Deng Chang's expression paused. "Ancestor, do you mean that the formation here is from the 9 heavens? If it's not from the higher continent, it can only be from the 9 heavens." Mu Changling shook his head, "Not necessarily. You have just arrived and you don't understand some of the secrets of the higher continent. Zhekongtian is not the only higher continent above the higher continent." Deng Changs was really surprised this time. After he came to the higher continent, especially after coming to Xianyuan sect, he read almost all the books on the higher continent's historical records. He really didn't know this. Even the monks in the higher continent practice with the goal of going to the 9 heavens, which shows that people in the higher continent also think that the higher continent is the 9 heavens. Mu Changling explained, "Many secrets are passed down orally and there are no written records, and these secrets are only known to some big families. I only know some superficial knowledge. There is no way to know the details." The secrets of high-level continental families are absolutely it won't be leaked. I know that I learned some of these things by chance in a secret place shortly after I arrived. Deng Cheng's eyes darkened. In other words, there will be some beings on the higher continent who are not from this continent, but few people will encounter them. Mu Changling nodded and said, a place like this can only be encountered by people with great opportunities. Ordinary people cannot. And most of the people with great opportunities are geniuses in this continent. People who get such opportunities are also it will not be announced to the outside world. Deng Chang's looked at the cave again and asked, Ancestor, do you mean that this is a place like this? I wasn't sure before, but now I can be sure when I detect the aura of the formation. Mu Changling sighed. Are our ancestors worried about Xiao Luo? Mu Changling shook his head. It has been more than 3,000 years since I discovered this place. I don't know how many years it existed before. However, no one has been able to enter from the time it was discovered to now. Xiao Luo entered easily, which shows that this place it's her chance. I'm not worried about her safety, but about her future. Deng Chang's eyes paused, and he immediately understood what his ancestor meant. Xiao Luo had such a great opportunity, which meant that she was the darling of heaven. People like her must have a mission, and the road ahead must be difficult. Especially in places like the high continents. Thinking about Yan Xiangluo's experience growing up, it was indeed different from that of a normal child. She has gone through so many hardships, but every hardship made her grow faster. Deng Chang suddenly realized that his ancestor was indeed a very thoughtful person, and his vision and state of mind were not what ordinary people could have. His master, who was a young man, didn't even see this. Xiao Luo is indeed a man of great fortune. Deng Chang sighed. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 507. His master seems to have slacked off a bit. Xiao Luo came later than his master, and her cultivation level is about to catch up with him. If she encounters some crisis, my master, may not be able to help her. No, after Xiao Luo comes out, he will start practicing according to the plan. I originally thought that I could live a more casual and relaxed life when I came to a higher continent to practice, but why was it more stressful than in a lower continent? Mu Changling glanced at Deng Chang's and said, as long as you understand. This is also the reason why he sent Qi Hao away. Qi Hao is still young and his level is not high enough to need to know these things, but Deng Chang's, as Yu Xiangluo's master, must know. I wanted to wait for him to realize it by himself, but now looking at Yan Xiangluo's footsteps, I can't wait for him to realize it by himself. The realm of cultivation is different between wanting to be a strong person and wanting to be a guardian of the strong. Especially Deng Chang's was very worried. Taking care of his little disciple is also a good spur and motivation for him in his cultivation. Mu Changling was actually a little envious of the master-disciple pair, Deng Chang's and Yuan Xiangluo. The master-disciple must have formed a good relationship in their previous life, and they had such a close relationship as father and daughter in this life. They were both on the right track for each other. Guidance and motivation. Qi Hao returned to the courtyard where Mu Changling lived. Ming Li came out of the room to greet him. Xiao Hao, why are you back alone? Senior brother Ming Li, my ancestors asked me to come back and have a good meal. Qi Hao was too smart to say anything else. He was very smart at a young age and knew that although his ancestor felt sorry for him because he was hungry, he was also trying to get rid of him. He should have something to tell his master. Ming Li was not brainless in being able to serve beside Mu Changling. On the contrary, he was transparent and smart. He didn't ask any more questions and said with a smile, Xiao Hao is just growing up, so he doesn't have to be good at it. Eat, you wait, senior brother will go to the kitchen to get you some food. Ming Li didn't know how to cook, so he had to go to the sex canteen to get food for Qi Hao. When it came to eating, he, who had no appetite, was eager for the food cooked by his uncle. It was the most delicious food he had ever eaten in his life. Chi Hao said sensibly, "No need to go to such trouble. Just take me to eat today, senior brother, and I can go there and eat by myself in the future." Hearing this, Mingli liked Chi Hao even more. This kid was so rare. "Okay, senior brother will introduce you to other senior brothers." Chi Hao went to the sect's dining hall for dinner for the first time. Although it was dinner, there were many people. They were all children who had just joined the sect and had not yet reached the level of cultivation that did not require eating. With Mingli's introduction, Chi Hao soon became familiar with these children. Although they were all teenagers, there was no one as young as Chi Hao in the section. In addition, the atmosphere between the brothers in the sect was already very tense. Harmony, therefore, were all friendly to him. After dinner, Chi Hao didn't go to the cave to wait. He couldn't do anything to help. In the past, he made his ancestors and masters worry, so he might as well stay here to practice. His mood has changed a lot in the past few days. He knows that he cannot hold himself to the standards of other peers. His master is extraordinary. As his master's disciple, he must work very hard. He can help without asking for help. "Master, please don't hold me back." Moreover, he still shouldered the blood feud of all his relatives, so he had no reason to be lazy. After seeing Chi Hao come back, Mingli went back to his room to practice. He felt very emotional in his heart. This kid's self-control was not very strong. He could still restrain himself to practice at this time. No wonder everyone who met him liked him. When eating just now, he thought Chi Hao would play with those disciples after dinner. After all, they all liked him and invited him. But Chi Hao refused. Although it was a few days too late, he went to practice as soon as he came back. Obviously, he didn't want to delay his practice. Mingli looked at the mountain and went to practice in the room where he was resting. He was no longer in his 30s and might as well be a child. Ji Zhikong in the space is still unconscious and has no intention of waking up. At this time, Yanxiangluo took out a food box and was sitting on the 9-layered lotus to eat. She has been researching for a whole day. Although she has not yet found a solution, she has some clues. Her mental energy has been consumed too much. She takes a break to recover her mental energy and eats some delicious food to relax herself. Fortunately, she habitually puts all her things in the storage ring given by her parents. If she had put them all in the space, she would not be able to take them out now. Hingri eyes flashed for a moment. The formation here was very special. It actually had the effect of sealing the space of living creatures, sealing only her and things with life, such as the Pangu space that can contain life, and her own spiritual pets. However, existences like the storage ring and the Kinkin bag will not be closed. The only difference between them is that one is a dead thing and the other is alive. Yanxiangluo was very excited. As long as she broke this formation, she would be able to set up such an formation in the future. She was not used to fighting with formations, but sometimes formations could really solve a lot of troubles. In Yanxiangluo's world, she will not refuse any skill she can learn, as long as she has time and energy. Because she knows very well that learning any skill will not be in vain. Maybe you will never use it, but once you use it, it may save your life. She doesn't often use formations, but it's because of her high attainments in formations that she has the chance to get the gentleman's sword and leave the Valley of Fire alive. It's the same now, because of the formation, she can leave here. Otherwise, she can only be trapped here, waiting for the master of the formation to come and take her life. Thinking of that man, Yanxiangluo curled up the corners of her lips. Now he is about to collapse. Although she was a divine soul body at the time, she underestimated the power of soul control, especially when the other party knew that she was a person in her previous life. In the case of the Heavenly Master, she can't do anything to his body, but it's easy to do what she wants to do to a person's soul, even if he is far away in a place she doesn't know. If you want to kill yourself, you can't do anything else to his body now, but you can still punish him. Just let him lie down for a few years. As for how many years, it depends on his own strength. It could be 1, 2, or 3 to 5 years, it all depends on him. This is also an opportunity she gave herself, an opportunity to become stronger. Thinking of the scene she saw in the illusory world, although it was illusory, the illusion was based on the real world. It was not the 9 heavens she had seen in her dream, nor was it the place where the higher continent should be. Could it be that this world on the continent, there is still a place that the world doesn't know about between the higher continent and the 9 heavens? After Xianxia completely gave up relying on her heart, her brain was still very useful. After finishing the snacks in his hands, he put away the food box, and his mental strength was almost restored, and he continued to study the formation breaking. Everything will have to wait until we get out. Even if she had some clues, it was still 2 days later when Xianxia started to break the formation. In other words, she had been in the cave for 6 days. Xianxia held the Junzi sword in her hand, and the formation eye was on the 9-layered lotus. This was the conclusion she came to after 3 days of research. But this formation is very special. There are actually 4 key points to break the formation. If you want to break the formation, you must use 4 powerful weapons with balanced power at the same time. For others, this may be a bit difficult. After all, even if there are treasures with the same power are not easy to find. But this is too simple for Xianxia. She has a gentleman's sword. With a thought, the gentleman's sword appeared in front of her. With a stroke of her hand, the gentleman's sword was divided into 5 swords. The plum, orchid, bamboo, and chrysanthemum swords appeared in front of her in their respective forms. Input spiritual power and push with your hand, 4 beautiful gentleman's swords will fly up, then land on the 4 sides of the 9-layered lotus, floating steadily on the 9-layered lotus. The formation eye was suppressed by her Junzi sword. After the suppression was successful, Xianxia did not pause at all, and a stream of spiritual power rushed towards one of the glowing balls. Although the backlash force still existed this time, it was much smaller, and the ball was successfully knocked down by her spiritual power. However, the falling ball did not fall to the ground, but flew towards Xianxia, or to be precise, towards the 9-layer lotus. Xianxia narrowed her eyes, used her mental power to accurately wrap the ball, and directly forced it into an empty storage ring of hers. The reason why she put it into the empty storage ring is very simple. Xianxia was worried that the ball would be still hot and would ruin other things. She still had a lot of treasures, and she would feel bad if any of them were ruined. So using an empty storage ring to hold these will never be a problem. After a ball was put away and a ray of light was lost, there was a gap in the entire formation. Xianxia input spiritual power into the 4 gentlemen's swords and shouted broken. The 4 gentlemen's swords made a strong buzzing sound, and spiritual power was injected into the 4 holes of the formation. After a muffled sound, the formation was broken open. The light of dozens of spheres was instantly retracted, and then, those light spheres flew towards Xianxia like shooting stars. Xianxia was shocked. She had never expected such a situation. If these scalding hit her body, they would definitely be completely disfigured, and they might even burn her whole body. Even if as long as she was alive, she had her own way to treat burns, but she didn't want to suffer that fate. Hence, powerful spiritual power is released, blocking all the of light and then trying to wrap them. This is the first time that Xianxia has used so much mental power in an instant. She doesn't know yet whether she can succeed. Cold sweat broke out on her forehead, which showed how quickly her mental energy was depleted. "Take it," Xianxia shouted while biting a mouth of snow-white teeth. Dozens of spheres disappeared before her eyes, and Xianxia suddenly fell onto the 9-layered lotus. The glowing ball disappeared, the light disappeared immediately, the halo and patterns on the ground also disappeared, and the cave instantly returned to darkness, but there was still one place that was bright in the darkness, which was the 9-story lotus platform. The fragrance falls ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 508. 4 gentlemen's swords are still suspended around Yuan Xianxia, and the 9-story lotus platform is still there? She thought that those lights were real, but she didn't expect that the 9-story lotus platform was also real. She thought that except for those glowing balls, everything else was illusory. After all, she saw with her own eyes the 9-story lotus platform appearing in the light, unlike those luminous that appeared in small recesses opened on the stone wall. The mental energy consumption was too great, which made Yan Xiangliu's head hurt and made her whole body feel very uncomfortable. However, she was very calm and slumped on the 9-layered lotus, thankful that she had escaped the disaster. At this time, she somewhat understood that the 9-layer lotus platform should be something she had in her previous life. The other party could use her past things as a guide to pull her soul out of her body. She didn't know what her identity was in her previous life. She actually wanted to kill someone who wanted to find her reincarnation. It wasn't as simple as killing her. She wanted to destroy her soul and make herself disappear completely. The soul was destroyed. There is no future. Why does anyone hate himself so much? How much hatred is this? How many such people are there? Maybe that man wasn't the only one. Yan Xiangliu has already thought about what her future life will be like. Danger will appear anytime and anywhere. It is difficult to guard against it. It is not easy to live long enough to recover her memory. She sighed secretly, "Master, when will the spirit of your old man appear? Can you explain my confusion to your apprentice? If not, you can let me recover my memory quickly. You must let me know who the enemy is and why. Put me to death so you can be on guard." If this encounter happened again, she couldn't guarantee that she would be so lucky to escape every time. The master she was talking about was her master in her previous life. Until now, she had no useful memories from her previous life. The memory this time was simply worthless. Regarding the relationship between this cave and that man, Yan Xiangliu now also knows that this place was not set up by a man. After all, those black dumplings are real benefits and have been swallowed up by her black dumplings. This means that this place is indeed a place. Her chance, Black Tuanzi should also have something to do with her previous life. That man must have discovered this place and used everything here to make this game, waiting for himself to come in this life. This also shows that not all things and opportunities left to you are safe. After recovering a little, Yan Xiangliu slowly got up, sat cross-legged on the 9-story lotus platform, and began to restore her mental strength. She did not take back the Junzi sword. The formation was cracked and the connection between the enclosed space and the spiritual pet was restored. However, she needs to restore her mental strength now. It's not that she doesn't believe in Jizhong, but that from now on, she must learn not to rely on anyone, so that she can respond as quickly as possible when she encounters a crisis in the future. This is the only way for her benefit. Therefore, she will not leave her own safety in anyone's hands in the future. However, because her mental power was consumed too much, she didn't look at what was happening in the space. Now that she even used a little bit of mental power, her head hurt. Yun Tuan and Zetian rushed out together after regaining contact with their master. One fell on her shoulder, and the other turned into a hairpin and inserted it into her bun. Anyone who sees their posture will understand that they are trying to protect their master, Yan Xiangliu. Yan Xiangliu naturally sensed the clouds and the sky, and the corners of her lips curled up. They existed with her through life and death. But because my head hurt so much, I didn't communicate with them and immediately fell into cultivation. A small whirlpool appeared in the empty sea of consciousness, and the remaining mental power began to rotate with the vortex. Every time it rotated, the vortex became larger, and some mental power was restored. The more it turned, the larger the vortex became. When the vortex was full, throughout the sea of consciousness, her mental power was completely restored. It's true that Xianxia has consumed almost all her mental power before, but she has never consumed her mental power like this in an instant. That's why she was extremely uncomfortable and had a severe headache. I'm afraid the recovery time this time will be longer. Sure enough, 3 days passed after the recovery, and the incense stayed in the cave for 9 days. Xuanhuan woke up on the 8th day. When he woke up, he immediately saw that the space was still restricted, and at a glance he saw Xianxia sitting on the 9-story lotus platform practicing. The space restriction was lifted. Xuanhuan felt relieved when he saw that Xianxia was fine, but when he thought of everything he experienced when he was in a coma, a look of solemnity flashed in his eyes. The past few days when he was in a coma, it was as if he was watching another person's life, except that this person looked exactly like him, and his experience could be described as extraordinary. He knew that these should be his experiences in his previous life, because he had recovered some memories before, but they were just scattered pictures and could not piece together the plot he needed. This time, he had many more memories. Luoluo was very important in his life. The presence. However, these memories are still not a complete life, and the scenes of some key moments are blurred, especially the memory of the fall that he wants to know most about has no memory at all. Xuanhuan didn't know why he suddenly recovered so many memories. He didn't know if it had something to do with his rapid improvement in cultivation or the place where Luoluo was. But at this time, he felt very heavy, because Luoluo's cultivation status was very high in his memory, and she also shouldered an important mission. As for what this mission was, he didn't know what it was. It's not that Luoluo didn't tell him, but that she couldn't tell him because of the law of heaven. His identity is exactly the opposite of Luoluo. He guessed that this was an important reason for his fall. Although many key memories have not yet been recovered, he also knows that his love affair with Luoluo can be described as difficult and dangerous. I don't know how he and Luoluo died. Did Luoluo complete her mission? But he saw Luoluo protecting him and standing by his side again and again, paying a heavy price for it, and it made his heart hurt just to see him like this. Xuanhuan just stood and looked at Xianxia outside the space, without moving for a long time. After recovering his memory, what he cared about most was what Luoluo's master said to him, "You are Luoer's calamity. You can't escape, you can only face it." That was the only time he saw Luoluo's master, but her master's words made him crazy. Luoluo's master has been watching his defense calmly. He said that he loves Luoluo so much, how could it become his calamity? He will protect Luoluo with his life, and it will definitely not be Luoluo's calamity. Luoluo's master said 2 more words, fate. His tone was very helpless. At this time, Xuanhuan in the previous life did not understand what he meant, but Xuanhuan in this life saw it very clearly. It was helplessness that he knew but could not stop. Xuanhuan had a gut feeling that his subsequent death should be related to him. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Fragrance Falls Ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 509. Because in his memory, Luoluo loved and trusted him so much in his last life. If it was really because of him that Luoluo died, Xuanhuan closed his eyes. He couldn't imagine whether Luoluo regretted it in the end. Chaotic and unclear memories disturbed Xuanhuan's heart. Originally, he thought that they were destined to fall in love with Luoluo in this life, and that he would be happy. However, now he feels that it should be the unfulfilled wish of the previous life, so that he can meet and fall in love with her again in this life. But he also knew that in this life, he loved deeply and Luoluo loved very rationally. He can recover the memory of his previous life, and sooner or later Luoluo will recover the memory of his previous life. He is a little scared now, afraid that Luoluo will no longer give him a chance after knowing the memory of his previous life. Worried that they will follow in the footsteps of their previous life. How to do it? Dark gleams flashed across the phoenix's eyes. When living in this life was not easy, he had never been confused and helpless. Now he was actually confused and helpless. Ji Zhong just stood in the space and watched Yan Xiongluo for the whole day. At the evening of the 9th day, Yan Xiongluo finally recovered her mental strength and found that her sea of consciousness had expanded again. The expansion of the sea of consciousness indicates that the mental power has been strengthened. It seems that although I walked on the edge of life and death this time, I still gained a lot. After all, every monk knows how difficult it is to improve spiritual power. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many monks stuck at a certain cultivation level throughout their lives and unable to go any further. Wouldn't it be because their spiritual consciousness is not strong enough and their talent is not enough? Although Yan Xiongluo can restore her mental power and enhance her mental power by consuming her mental power, she has not been able to increase her mental power so much all at once. Yan Xiongluo opened her eyes, stood up, and glanced at the 9-story lotus platform she was standing on. She recovered her mental power very quickly on the 9-story lotus platform. Not only did she quickly expand her sea of consciousness, she also improved her spiritual power level. Could it be that this 9-story lotus platform also has the function of improving spiritual power? If this was the case, it would be a rare treasure, a treasure that could not be measured by money. After all, she had not heard of anything in the world that could help improve spiritual power. Whether it has this function or not, it cannot be left behind and must be taken away. The 9-story lotus platform should be something from her previous life, and may be used in the future. Even if it is used for practice, it is an excellent assistant. Jumped down from the 9-layer lotus platform lightly, locked his mental power on the 9-layer lotus platform, and wanted to put it away with the thought. The 9-story lotus platform actually didn't move at all. Yan Xiongluo was stunned for a moment. She couldn't put it away. How could it be possible? Isn't the 9-story lotus platform her own? Unwilling to give up, she tried again. This time she increased her mental strength, but the result was that she still could not close the 9-layer lotus platform. Yan Xiongluo looked at the 9-story lotus platform in confusion. Why couldn't it be put away? Wow, why can't I close the 9-story lotus platform? She could only ask Shiwo. Shiwo's voice rang out in her mind, I'll clean it up and then you'll obey. Yan Xiongluo was stunned. She didn't realize that the 9-layer lotus platform had any spiritual consciousness. Could it be that the 9-layer lotus platform was some kind of divine object? My cultivation level is too low to feel it. As soon as the voice of Shiwo fell in her consciousness, it appeared in front of her. Then she saw that Shiwo had grown in size, bigger than the 9-story lotus platform, and then turned upside down to cover the 9-story lotus platform inside. Master, set it on fire, Shiwo called to her. Yu Xiongluo was speechless. Is this what King Shiwo said about cleaning it up? Although she was speechless, she moved quickly. As soon as Shiwo finished speaking, she threw out a stream of flames that fell to the bottom of Shiwo, and now the top, and burned it. She did not use her own fire-based flames, but the flames from the 5 elements fire beads. The main reason was that she was worried that her own fire-based flames were not strong enough. Yan Xiongluo didn't know why Shiwo wanted to burn the 9-story lotus platform, but for a treasure like this, the higher the flame level, the better. Increase the heat, Shiwo shouted. Yan Xiongluo threw out another flame, and she didn't say it was enough until 3 flames were thrown out. She couldn't see the situation inside the stone nest. She didn't know how it was burned. Could it have burned out the 9-story lotus platform? Thinking that there should be enough stone nests, she stopped worrying and concentrated on controlling the fire. 15 minutes later, Shiwo asked her to put away the flame. Yan Xiangluo immediately put away the flame and stared at Shiwo with her beautiful eyes. The stone nest flew up and returned to its original size, revealing the 9-story lotus platform inside. Yan Xiangluo opened her mouth in surprise and looked at the 9-story lotus platform that had changed beyond recognition. After a while, she said, "Wow, are you sure this is still the 9-story lotus platform?" Shiwo said arrogantly, "Of course I am sure, this is the original 9-story lotus platform of the master. I burned everything that does not belong to the 9-story lotus platform." It was clear to Yan Xiang that it was no wonder that she had been unable to put away the 9-story lotus platform before. It turned out that someone had attached something to the 9-story lotus platform that did not belong to it. It must have been that man who did it. He probably discovered the 9-story lotus platform and then went on to set up a plan for himself. "Can I put it away now?" Yan Xiangluo asked again. Of course Shiwo flew back to Yan Xiangluo's sea of consciousness. Yan Xiangluo looked at the 9-story lotus platform in front of her. She had already seen 3 forms of the 9-story lotus platform. The golden 9-story lotus platform carved in the golden palace, and when the 9-story lotus platform appeared here before, it looked like it was carved from jade, crystal clear and full of fairy spirit. The current 9-layer lotus platform is pure black, and it is not jade, but rather made of some kind of weapon refining material. Although it belonged to her in the previous life, she did not recover much memory. The little memory she recovered was simply worthless to her. She also had no memory of the 9-layer lotus terrace. She did not know the origin of the 9-layer lotus terrace. Don't know what it's made of. Thinking that Master Jizhong is a weapon refiner, he should know what kind of material this is made of. Let's ask him later. Yan Xiangluo then remembered that Jizhong was still in her space. After so many days, she must be worried. She didn't know that Jizhong had passed out in a coma and had recovered many memories of his previous life. Jizhong has been standing in the space looking at her, especially when she tried to put away the 9-story lotus platform and failed. He wanted to go out and help her. Because the 9-layered lotus platform was refined by me and given to her in the previous life, she naturally knew why she couldn't put away the 9-layered lotus platform outside. As long as he refines the things that do not belong to the 9-layer lotus platform, Luoluo can put them away, but how can he explain that he knows that there are things that do not belong to it? Before he recovered all his memories, he didn't know how to tell Luoluo. Just when he was hesitating, Shiwo appeared and refined the excess contents of the 9-story lotus platform. Jizhong narrowed his eyes. It was a stone nest. The fragrance falls ninefold. Author, Midday Sunday. Chapter 510. Chapter 510 Concealing Each Other. Shiwo is also the alchemy furnace used in Luoluo's previous life. It seems that Shiwo has memory, but it is restricted by the rules of heaven and cannot be said. Does Luoluo have any memories of his past life now? How many? Yan Xiangluo looked into the space and happened to look at Jizhong. Both of them were stunned. This was the first time that Yan Xiangluo looked at him since his mentality changed after he knew that Jizhong had signed up to participate in the continental competition. She keenly noticed that Jizhong looked at her differently than before, as if he had more indescribable emotions. People's hearts will change. As time and events change, Yan Xiangluo remembered what the 5th senior brother said to her when she saw his spirit. "Xiaoqi, the 5th senior brother knows your feelings for him. Even if you are reincarnated, you still meet again." Before, the 5th senior brother wanted to kill him to prevent him from affecting you again in the future, but you still saved him at the last moment. Him. Even if you have no memories of the past, and your feelings for him are not as deep as before, you still exposed your secret to save him. Xiaoqi, Brother 5 can't do anything to him now, and you will do nothing to him in the future. You have to go and choose by yourself. As for whether he will still be your calamity in this life, time will prove it. Brother fifth, I only hope that Xiaoqi can get the life you want in this life. Yan Xiangluo thought about the changes in her heart now, and then thought about the words of the fifth senior brother. She suddenly felt very tired. What is love? Did she love Jija Kong so much in her previous life? Let him affect her to the extent that the fifth senior brother left her soul. How much do you want to kill him? Fifth senior brother said that Jija's Hong was his calamity in the last life, but what about this life? Yan Xiangluo suddenly lost confidence in her and Jija's Hong's future. She was so depressed that she was out of breath. She blinked her almond-shaped eyes. It took her a while to suppress all the emotions in her heart, and then she sent the 9-story lotus platform into the space. She did not go in, but said to Jija's Hong, "Jikong, take a look, do you know what materials this 9-layer lotus platform is made of?" Jija's Hong looked at the 9-layer lotus platform that appeared in front of him. His phoenix eyes lowered to cover the expression in his eyes. No one knew better than him what kind of material the 9-layer lotus platform was made of, but it was not a high-level continent at all. What did he say about something? After thinking for a while, he said, it shouldn't be a weapon refining material available in the higher continents. He was not lying when he said this. No matter what the 9-layer lotus platform was made of, it would only be good for Luoluo without any harm. But his words made Yan Xiangluo stunned. Although the two of them were not in the same space, Yan Xiangluo still looked at him deeply, and then put the 9-layer lotus platform into her storage ring, and did not put it away. In space. Jija's Hong is talking about weapon refining materials that are not available in higher continents. How does he know there is no such thing on the higher continent? Even if he doesn't know what kind of weapon making material it is, shouldn't he answer that he doesn't know or he hasn't seen it? He has recovered the memory of his previous life. Perhaps not all, but he chose to hide himself, hiding himself again. Yan Xiangluo's heart seemed to be suddenly grasped tightly by something, and she felt extremely uncomfortable. Not wanting Jija's Hong to see what she was thinking, she turned around and looked into the cave. The tunnel she came in through reappeared, indicating that she could go out. Jija Kong has something to hide from her. She doesn't intend to tell him about her experience here. No matter how much they loved each other in the last life, or how much she loved him, this life will be different after all. Yan Xiangluo couldn't explain the feeling in her heart. In short, she felt uncomfortable, all kinds of discomfort. At this time, she somewhat understood why Mrs. Linger, who loved the Lord of the Southern Continent miserably, tortured herself like that. When you love so deeply, you can't help yourself. It's not easy to get out of it, and I'm afraid it will take a lot of heart out. It is easy to persuade others but difficult to persuade yourself. The exit has appeared. I'll go out first. The ancestors and master must be waiting impatiently. Yan Xiangluo didn't want to face Jija's Hong now and was ready to go out immediately. Jija's Hong himself had something on his mind, so he didn't notice the changes in Yan Xiangluo. He also needed time to think carefully about what to do and how to make Luoluo not be angry with him after regaining his memory, let alone give up on him. He responded, "Okay." Yan Xiangluo took a deep breath and walked towards the entrance of the corridor, each step heavy. After walking into the corridor, she speeded up. She couldn't make her ancestors and master anxious because of her mood. Therefore, she used her spiritual power and quickly walked through the corridor to the entrance of the cave. It only took her a moment to reach the entrance of the cave in a quarter of an hour. Seeing the dark sky outside the cave entrance, she knew it was evening. Mu Changling had already detected that the formation in the cave had disappeared. He tried to go in, but there was still an obstacle, but the force of the obstacle seemed to have changed. It was different from before. However, because Yang Xiang fell inside, he did not dare to try forcefully. Break. Seeing her figure appear at the entrance of the cave, Mu Changling and Deng Chang's breathed a sigh of relief at the same time. "Ancestor, Master, I'm out. Yan Xianglego smiled and said to the two of them, trying to make her emotions look normal. Mu Changling looked her up and down. Did you advance? Well, advance to the first level. Yan Xianglego walked up to the two of them and said. Deng Chang sighed, Master is under a lot of pressure. Yan Xianglego was amused by Master's expression and tone. Master, you should be less stressed. The apprentice's cultivation level is already higher than that of the master. Why does Xiao Luo say that the master's pressure should be less? Deng Chang said he was under a lot of pressure. He actually had two meanings. One was to tease the young apprentice, and the other was that he really felt the pressure was high. The young apprentice was promoted too fast. How could he, a master, not be under pressure? The apprentice is getting higher and higher. What can he do if the master can't keep up? He doesn't want to lose face. Because there are disciples who support the master, Yan Xianglego said, patting her heart. Deng Chang's was stunned when he heard this, and then laughed loudly. That makes sense. He knew that the young apprentice was comforting him, but this kind of comfort was very special. The master could feel the feeling of being supported by the apprentice. When the master treated him like this, it was unprecedented and unprecedented. This master is so relaxed and happy. When I think about it, the pressure becomes happy. Let's go, Xiaohao should be anxious. Mu Changling looked at the joking master and disciple, and once again envied the good relationship between master and disciple. I'm afraid there is only one pair of masters and apprentices like them in the world. They can come from the lower continent to the higher continent, and then they can get along with each other so naturally and intimately, just like father and daughter. Such a master and apprentice will live anyway. I saw this pair when I was more than 3,000 years old. Yan Xianglego turned around and looked at the cave and said, Ancestor, can you try to get in? End of this chapter.